Hi, my name is Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News.
Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Come on, baby, don't you wanna go back to that lemon light city?
Hi, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine. Your host, Avi Meyer, and the greatest cameraman of all, Sonny Hersh.
Hey, Marty, thank you so much for that great intro. What can I possibly tell you? Obviously, I didn't get to give a haircut for Marty today. Thanks to my entire technical crew, Sonny Hersh. Avi Meyers here. Welcome to the Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine, a presentation of Sonny Hersh and myself. Dial us up on the World Wide Web at www.ntnm.org. You can watch all the shows on the web now, a few days after you see them on CAN TV, or ECMC in Evanston, or the Comcast cable systems in Skokie in the north and northwest suburbs. So go to www.ntnm.org and check out your local CAPS meeting at caps24.org. All the new schedules for the year are going to come up soon. Caps24.org. There's also a site run by Sonny Hersh, who in his spare time is the head of the District Advisory Committee of the 24th District. And I want to urge all of you, if you see criminal activity, if you have to talk to the police about this, okay? I don't mean any kind of, you can talk to organizations, anybody you want, but if you don't tell the police what you saw, they have no way of knowing. It's important to talk directly to the police, and I did get a nice letter from Vance Henry to Ms. Avi Meyers, asking me where I thought maybe cameras should go in this neighborhood, and I thought maybe cameras should go to check all the CAPS employees that, well, Barton Moy's not one of them. Actually, I kind of like Meg Gilman myself, but how about some of the CAPS employees who aren't doing their job or serving the community the way they should? How about putting cameras on them? I think that would be a very nice idea. In any event, it is my pleasure and privilege to have the jack-of-all-trades expert, but I haven't had him at all as a jack-of-all-trades expert, not this time either. He's also considered by many, and by the way, they're right, the leading election lawyer in the state of Illinois. And there's an election coming, and it's happening. And here he is, Jim Nally. Jim, how you doing?
I'm doing great, and thanks for having me on.
First of all, my pleasure, Jim, and thank you, and also the co-host of our live show. And we're going to actually shoot to try to get maybe Mayor Daley on, and hey, you're invited for like a tape show and a live show, the whole shot. So we'll see what we can do along those lines. But you know what? Yesterday was the first day of filing for the aldermanic and mayoral elections. Now, of course, we know that Mayor Daley did file.
That's correct.
And as a matter of fact, for those of you who don't know, our entire technical crew, Sonny Hersh, was one of the 100 members of the Rainbow Coalition that was standing in there, the second time in a row that Daley has so chosen to have him in there, and I want to congratulate you, Sonny, on that. And but aldermanic-wise, I mean, we're covering the 50th ward, we're covering the 49th. We're going to try to also cover the 40th and 39th. Is there any trends? Is there any big things you see here?
Well, the big thing is the number of candidates who filed. As of the first day of filing, 131 people have filed for various city offices, and about 126 of those are for aldermanics.
So that's 2.5 people per slot.
Roughly, and of course there's some wards, at least at this point, the filing deadline isn't till next week, so there are some people who will file the last day, but there's some wards that don't have any opponents. Right now, locally, for instance, Pat O'Connor in 40 does not have an opponent.
That means he won't come on the show again for a change, but I'll invite him. You were invited, Alderman O'Connor? We like you. You used to come on.
At this point, Margaret Lorino in 39 doesn't have an opponent.
I was going to invite her too.
Tom Allen in 38 doesn't have an opponent. Now, this is all subject to change because people may file the last day.
Right.
Usually the big rush is the first day, and the second biggest rush is the last day because there's some people who, when you file at 9 o'clock on the first day, you get into the lottery to get the top ballot position. And then the people who file the last day, who are the last people to file,
well, some people
put the
figure
last
you might
spot.
be last. And as a matter of fact, I do want to say this real quick because I haven't said it on this show yet. I just want all of you to know that I invited for this particular. We usually tape like 3 shows in a day, sometimes 4, and I invited all 4 candidates. I invited Alderman Stone, and I invited Greg Brewer, Zalman Aftab, who hasn't filed yet. I know they're going to file the last day, but and I'm not giving out any secrets because this will air after the last day, and Nazy Dolar. And Greg Brewer's Owen Braw was kind enough to call me to say that he couldn't make it and he would like to come on another time. And I thank you very much for the call, and I appreciate your consideration. Nazy Dolar did not call or contact me whatsoever. I did have a long talk on the phone with Zalman Aftab's campaign manager, but they never called to set a time.
Okay.
So I just want to say from that standpoint that, like I asked everybody. And I will continue, I will ask them all one more time. And if they don't want to show, that's their problem, not mine.
And it is a problem because we know that this is a very well-watched show, and particularly in the area of public affairs. There are a lot of people who look to this show for guidance in terms of having a free and open discussion. And you are very good, Avi, and I want to compliment you about no matter what the office is, of making sure that anybody who's running for that office has an opportunity to come on the show and express their viewpoint.
Well, I do try my best, and what could I do? I will say this, and thank you, Jim. There's very few shows where people can actually show up and talk from 9 to 14 minutes, and I don't interrupt people. I want to showcase the people that are on. I'm not looking to ask hard questions. I ask questions,
Well, in days gone by, the public square was the forum before there were radios or televisions or anything like that, and people would go down to the public square and give speeches, and whoever was around who wanted to listen could listen. And really, obviously, now, the electronic age, that's been changed, and programs like this that appear both on television, are available on the Internet. That's the new public square.
Absolutely. And, this is an opportunity for people to speak to me. And, hey, they can make me look bad, too, if they think I'm a certain way. That's up to them. Okay.
Well, it's just, again, I want to compliment you because this is your program, and you could certainly just invite people that you wanted to pick and exclude others. And I know you've always been very good about inviting people in the political arena from every particular viewpoint and every particular candidate and in whatever district it is.
Well, I try very hard, and I guess that and $4 will get me a nice shot of Jack Daniels. But what can I do? Probably 7 or 8. I don't go to bars anymore, so everything's so expensive. So you know what? You notice? Okay, so we've got a lot of candidates now. That's got to be the Shackman thing. Is influencing people.
I'll tell you, part of it is a function is that the signature requirements in a lot of the wards this time around were not particularly high.
Oh, no, I want to ask you about that, because you know what? You're right. Joe Moore was on. I think he said you needed 134 or 150 signatures. He filed 5,047 signatures.
Yeah, it's the signature requirement is determined by the turnout in the last municipal election 4 years ago. And if you remember, 4 years ago, there was very token opposition against Mayor Daley, so the turnout was very low, because the mayor's race is usually the race that really boosts turnout. People usually get excited about it.
I happen to like Dorothy Brown, but, well, actually, you finish your thought, and then we'll talk about it.
Well, and that's the direct reason why the signature requirements are so low, because the turnout 4 years ago was below, certainly below average. And the numbers then for signatures this time around are based on that low turnout 4 years ago. There was one ward in the city of Chicago where you only needed 67 good signatures to get on the ballot.
Wow.
Which is unbelievable.
That's, you can get that in like
You could walk up and down one street and have that in an afternoon.
That's correct, if these people actually registered to vote, but yeah.
Well, it's that's interesting.
Amazing.
Right now, there's 2 candidates for mayor. Mayor Daley filed, and this William Walls filed.
Oh, Dorothy Brown didn't file yet.
No, she apparently is going to wait to the last day. Again, there's that strategy of either filing the first day or the last day, and that's what I hear about her. Then city clerk, it's very interesting. At this point, there's 2 Hispanic candidates. Miguel Devalier, who's been appointed to fill that.
Long-time official in Springfield. He was an elected official, right.
And another candidate, Jose Cerda, who is a former member of the Daley administration, and who actually, as an independent candidate, has done a very good job, and I've consulted with him. I want to make that clear. But he filed well over 27,000 signatures yesterday, which is pretty impressive for an independent candidate.
What's the requirement for that office?
That for mayor, clerk, and treasurer, it's the same. It's 12,500 valid signatures.
And that's not that. Well, 27,000 is an extremely impressive total.
Yeah, it's
extremely impressive.
Once you get into the thousands, the figures of thousands of signatures, I don't care who you are. It's not an easy job to put that many signatures, good signatures, together.
Right. No, that's. I give them a lot of credit.
There's some other races. In the second ward, for instance, an attorney that I know well, Bob Fioretti, is running.
I remember. People. I know who he is. I've met him. Nice guy.
Yeah, and Bob.
What ward is he running in?
Second ward, which is kind of the west side, near west side, and even into part of the Loop.
Okay.
And Bob is. You may remember Bob had the out-of-state adoption case that drew a lot of press about a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Baby Tamika, where there was an issue that the mother really didn't know she was signing away rights to her baby, and the baby was taken to Utah, or Idaho, one of the western states, and ultimately a judge here agreed that she had not been given proper advising of her rights as a mother, and the baby was brought back and reunited. So, Bob handled that case, and I think it's going to be a very interesting race in a lot of these wards, because you're going to have people who normally you would look at and say, these are people who are not normally you would expect to be running for alderman, and you're going to have a lot of people coming out of the legal world or the business world who, in the past, you'd say those people, really wouldn't have an interest in getting involved in seeking political office, and this time they are.
That's interesting, because he has no reason. I mean, okay, he did some good stuff, there's no question. Well, let me ask you, is the increased salary for aldermen having an effect on this?
Well, I think it always does. I think it always does, and I think the...
This is what, $118,000 a year and all you can steal?
Well, no, it's I won't comment on the second part.
Okay, sure, go ahead.
Because, no matter how much money you make, you're going to get caught if you're doing that. And
we don't approve of stealing one nickel from anybody ever.
But it will be up over $100,000 this time.
It's like 118 about.
Not 118. I think it's going up to around 104, 105. But they have built in...
I could live with that.
Yeah, well, and
it's only about $98,000 more than I made last year.
Well, and keep in mind too that the office of alderman, by statute, is considered to be a part-time office. Now, there are many of these aldermen who have no outside business other than serving as a full-time alderman.
Alderman Stone, as a matter of fact, has no other job.
Right.
He gave up his law practice many years ago.
Right, and I think it's the type of job that people, once they get into it, they realize it is a full-time job.
Just out of curiosity, does Joe Moore have outside income? I don't think so.
I'm not aware of it.
I think he's pretty much been a full-time alderman for quite a while.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any outside thing. I know he's an attorney, but I'm not aware that he has any outside practice.
I pretty much take for granted. I would figure that probably 48 of the 50 are attorneys.
Yeah.
Just because there's usually an exception.
It's actually not that many.
Really?
Yeah, I would say maybe half the aldermen. Yeah.
Wow, really?
Yeah, it's interesting. But this
Let's
time
hope for
around,
real people.
Yeah, well, this time around you're seeing people from areas, particularly the legal field, the finance field, the business world, who in the past maybe weren't as active in seeking office. But are certainly doing that now.
I like that idea. The fact is, I think it's important to try to involve good people in government. Part of the problem is good people. One of the things I'm going to be asking people this time around is, if they actually get some... Well, I'm going to be inviting all the candidates from 4950. 39 and 40, no opposition. I'll invite both candidates.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the neighborhood stuff.
Yeah, well, there could be opposition by next week.
Oh, no, definitely, and we'll be keeping track. So that's for sure. But,
now, the 49th Ward, as of now, there are 4 candidates that have filed, including the incumbent, Joe Moore. There's another person, Chris Adams. Don Gordon has also filed, who's had a campaign up and running since last summer, I think.
Right. As a matter of fact, he put me on his email list, so I've been getting all his emails.
And then there's also Jim Gandersky, who's
He lost his campaign manager, by the way.
Oh, okay.
He got hired away by the regular 49th Ward Democratic Organization.
Oh, that's
interesting. Or
interesting.
she did. I'm sorry.
And technically, the other thing we need to keep in mind here is that this is all nonpartisan. There are no Democrats and Republicans, at least as far as the ballot
everybody's running
goes.
as regular human beings.
And it's a 50% plus 1.
Yeah.
So no candidate wins with just a majority. If you have 5 candidates, somebody has to get 50% of the vote plus 1, or there's a runoff. And in the runoff, the top 2 candidates would run then in April 17th. Yeah. And the initial municipal election, though, is scheduled for February 27th of 2007.
Now, let me ask you, and by the way, for those of you who don't know, there's a number of Republicans that didn't get to run for office because our leading election lawyer here knocked them off the ballot legitimately, by the way. This is no gerrymandering. If people don't even file at the time you're allowed to file...
Yeah, well, in that case,
they didn't even... deadline, they
didn't even run. They didn't run in the primary, and there's a process to fill vacancies, but they didn't follow the law.
Right. So here's the point. I just wanted to establish the fact that you're good at this stuff, okay? Well, which we all know.
I've been doing it for a little while, and
yeah.
I think, if you do something, experience is the best teacher.
So out of these 126 candidates, if all he needs 150 signatures, or 125 or 67, are very many of them going to get kicked off the ballot?
Well, you're always going to have some. Yeah,
okay.
I can't tell you the percentage, but besides the raw signature numbers, there's always technical issues, and there's certain documents you have to file, and they have to be in a certain form, and if you don't do that properly, you can be knocked off for violations of the laws as far as that goes too.
I mean, in theory, in this ward where you need 67 signatures, you could be falling down drunk down the street. In the wrong ward, get enough signatures to get on the ballot in your ward.
It's interesting, though. Most of the time, even if a candidate is out there trying to get legitimate signatures and asking before they get, are you a registered voter in this ward and could you sign a petition for this candidate? Anywhere between, I found an experience, 10 to 20% of the signatures won't be good for a reason.
Yeah.
People think they're registered to vote and they're not, or they were registered 3 addresses ago and, they've never re-registered at their new address, or they think they're in this particular ward and it turns out
or they were too embarrassed to tell you that they're not registered voters and just wanted to say, or what if they signed 2 or 3 petitions?
Well, you can knock it off. The first petition signed by that voter, their signature is good.
And how can you date that?
Well, it's hard. You'd really almost have to get an affidavit from the voter saying, I signed this candidate's petition, on September 25th, and then this one after that, and this one after that. Yeah. That's hard, but it is, a legal requirement that you only sign one. But you're right, people do that all the time. So the thing is that even if people are making a real strong effort just to get legitimate signatures, 10 to 20% of them are not going to be legitimate for some reason. So if you start with that, and even if you need 150 signatures and you come in with, say, 250 or 300, it's certainly possible that even somebody who brings in that many signatures, which would appear to be like double the minimum, it's still possible that somebody like that won't have 150 legitimate signatures.
Wow. So a dangerous ballgame.
Well, do your homework. It's like anything else. And, the way I look at it is if you're seeking to fill a public office, an important office where you're representing the people and doing public business, you should be dedicated enough to find out what the rules are and make sure that you comply with all of them. And if you're slipshod or you're just doing
I think
this
it's
as
a
kind
hell of
a
a
lark,
good idea. You know what? One thing you've convinced me of that you're absolutely right about. If you can't even figure out the rules for how you're supposed to file to get on the ballot in the first place, what business do you have running a ward, running a public officer, or anything else?
I think it's a reflection on how dedicated the person is to the job to begin with. And if they're not taking the time to do it right to try to get on the ballot, it's somewhat of a reflection. Well, how dedicated would they be to that job if they were elected?
I don't think there's any question about it. Absolutely. Okay. Let's say somebody doesn't get 50% of the votes in any of these elections, okay? There is no primary Republican-Democrat, then there's a runoff.
Correct. And the runoff is the top 2 finishers. So it could be a situation where a candidate gets 49%, 49.5%, and the next finisher gets, 15%. Those 2 people still go into a one-on-one runoff, even though there's an enormous spread, in terms of the difference between those 2 candidates. You still have to get that 50% plus 1 so that you don't need a runoff election in April. But that would take place April 17th if it has to do so.
April 17th. Okay.
And I'm sure with the numbers of candidates this time around, there are going to be a good number of wards that have runoffs.
I would think so. I would definitely think so. And you've got a whole different situation, period, because you've got labor unions involved who didn't like the whole big box vote situation. We're going after people.
And runoffs can be tough, too, if you're the incumbent.
Yeah.
Because if you're the incumbent and you did not get 50% plus 1 of the people in your ward to vote for you the first time, then it generally says, well, there's a big anti-vote out there against you.
Yeah.
And that vote will generally go to whoever the challenger is, whoever the second place finisher is.
No, at one time, actually, it was decades where any time there was a runoff, the incumbent always lost. But actually, there's been a few exceptions of late.
There have been exceptions, but generally,
but
if you're an incumbent and you end up in a runoff, it's not a good sign.
Definitely true. At this point, I want to thank you very much, Jim Nally, our not just a jack-of-all-trades expert, but right now primarily the election expert. And we're hoping to do some more stuff. We will definitely do some more stuff before the election, hopefully another live show. Maybe Mayor Daley would like to show up. That would be great. Hint, hint. Because that would be wonderful. And I want to thank Sonny Hersh, who's going to have to run out and pick up his wife, Marlene, right now. I apologize, Marlene, if Sonny's a couple minutes late over at the Northwestern station. If people would like to contact you, they can reach you at 312-422-5560, 312-422-5560. Jim Nally, the leading election lawyer in the state of Illinois, and in case you can't translate it in the phone, James P. Nally, okay? And thank you so much for being here, and
Thanks
I really
for having
appreciate
me.
it.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Avi.
Okay.